Now? All right, cool. So my name's Todd Blatt. I like to make cool stuff. I really like 3D printing and movie prop replicas. So I wanted to let you guys know that most people think that with 3D printing, you like print out your part and then you're done with your project. But because that's what 2D printers are like, where you like print out, your document and then you turn it into your teacher or whatever, and you're done with your printer. But with 3D printing, you can use your printed part in a project, so it doesn't have to be done. So what I've assembled here is a whole bunch of projects. I'm going to try and do 30 projects in 30 minutes, all movie prop replicas that had 3D printing involved in some way, and then there's going to be some post-processing I did or things like that. What movie prop replicas are things which you see in films and TV shows and things like that are items that were created by the prop makers to put in the show, but there's a whole community of people that like to have those things, like collectors of movie props, and also people who like to create those things. So there's so much talent on the Replica prop forum. So we're just going to get started and show you all the projects. Who knows what this is? This is the TARDIS key from Doctor Who, and it's 3D printed directly in metal. So 3D printing is not just, hey, let's print it in plastic. There's a metal 3D printer you can use. And this one's like an antique bronze patina that the printer printed out in metal. And so I made the model and printed it out. And this is a slide from a movie. Anybody know? Yeah, Zathura. So it's like kind of like Jumanji, but it was in space. It's pretty cool. The stuff that happened in the board game happens in real life to them. And there was a key. So on the left, I have the key, a still from the movie. So you have to go through frame by frame and find a good shot. And I was able to model it. You very rarely get a straight-on shot. But I was able to make the 3D model so you can see the render in the top center. And then the one on the right side is a 3D print. So you get a pretty good replica just printed right off the machine in stainless steel. And yeah, it's good to go. This one is from Harry Potter, yeah. So this one I printed in 2 separate parts, and then I assembled after the fact. So some people said, oh, you didn't print it together. That's cheating. But what's cheating? You're going to make a project. You can do separate things. So I printed the circle part, and then separately I printed the triangle part. And you snap it together, and you get this free spinning central piece. This is from Star Wars Episode 1, Captain Panaka's communication device. So this picture is not from a movie. It's from like a tour after the fact. People will show the props that were in there. So somebody got a good, nice up-close shot so you can see all the details that you would never see on screen. So a lot of the research goes into what was the prop, what did they use to make it, what did it look like. Even though you can't see the details on screen, it might be shown after the fact, so you might be able to see that. How about this one? It's from a TV show. It's animated. It is the Stonecutter's ring from The Simpsons. So you make the model, you print it out, and that was right in metal. And this is from Lost. It's the drive shaft ring that Charlie wore. So these are all like metal props that were just directly printed. How about this one? It's here. It's the Holy Grail from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So you can see how you can see like a white outline on the side of the cup. So this is also not a still from the movie. It was on tour, like at a Chicago exhibit. So somebody got a nice up-close shot of it. And that white line is what I drew. I drew the outline, and then I was able to revolve it. So it was a simple modeling project where you kind of just zoom in, and you get a straight-on shot, which is often rare to get on screen. You won't get like a, usually they'll take the shot from this angle or thing, or zoomed in, but a funny angle. But somebody who took this photo posted a line from a straight-on shot. So I was able to get the right angle, and then you do research on finding, well, how big was it? How tall is Harrison Ford? So maybe you can figure out how big the cup was based on that. So it's, they settled on 6 inches as the height. So once you're done, you have to go and paint it. And there's like a golden inlay. There's gold leaf you can put on the inside, and then paint the outside like that. So it's a work in progress. And this one I printed at home on the Ditto. So that's you can see the printer on the right there. Yeah, so there it's finished printing. And I used a laser cutter to make the stand for it. Pretty cool. Yeah. How about this one? Anybody know? Yeah, this is the Spaceballs. So you see the costume that that Lone Star wore in the middle, the Schwartz ring on the right, and on the left there's the birthright pendant that he wore. So it's really rare, but for this one I got a straight-on perfect shot. So the people in the replica prop community love when you get that straight-on shot because you don't have to guess at the angles or anything like that. You can see all the details zoomed in. So I just went in AutoCAD and traced the outline. So here's the render on the left and then a 3D printed part. I used Shapeways for this one. They printed it in metal and gold plated it for me. And then I used a furniture varnish and I squirted it in and washed it off, and all the varnish stayed in all the grooves. So I got that black texture in there. And then I glued the Swarovski crystals in there so you can get the match. So that way you've got, a printed part. So that's up here. You guys can check it out after. And so it's not just a printed part, but you did all these other things to it after. And then the renders on the left, the printed part is on the right, and I printed that in a high resolution detailed, like a resin. So it's a UV cured resin. I had that casted. So all the way on the left of the screen, you see a little blue part, and that is silicone resin, silicone mold, where wax was cast in the mold, and then that wax part was put in plaster and burned out, and then the ancient bronze material was poured in. So I got a whole lot of, I wanted that material, that ancient brass material that wasn't available from a printing service, because I needed that particular material because that's how the original one was made. I then dipped it in a solution called liver of sulfur, which blackened the part, and then I scrubbed it with steel wool so the blackened area stays down, and then the raised area gets all shiny, and you can expose the brass again. So there's mine on the left, and then the movie one on the right, and you get a perfect replica like that. Who knows this blaster? This one is the Scout Trooper blaster from Return of the Jedi. It's the one that was in the holster on the guy's ankle. So you can see I'm part of this Star Wars costume charity organization, and there's a biker scout there on the right, and he's holding that same blaster. This was printed on a home desktop 3D printer, all in 14 pieces, and they all snap together, and you can assemble it yourself. And it doesn't need any glue to assemble, so you can just snap it all together. There's no supports either. So a lot of times you have parts that you couldn't print like this at this angle because all this plastic would fall down. So all of these parts here, all the files are up online, and you can check out how they're oriented, so you can learn how to slice a model up into pieces where you can print a complicated object without needing that support structure. Whose blaster is this? Yeah. So that little piece right in front of the trigger, all the way in the front, it's a part they didn't know what it was for a long time, so people were making it themselves. I was able to 3D model it. It's part of an aircraft engine from an aircraft model kit that they use that part. So that piece, there was a deficit in the market and people trying to make Han Solo blaster replicas. So I was able to model this part and print it out, and for that time period where they couldn't find those model aircraft parts, people were able to use this one. So these are all the Inception totems from the film. The one in the center, the ring, was the one that I 3D printed. That one is the totem that Cobb wore on his ring finger. It was his wedding band ring. And everybody thinks that the spinning top was his totem, but really that was his wife's. So I printed that one too. I machined all the ones at the top, but that one's printed. So the way I did the top was I did that same revolve method where you get the straight-on shot, and you draw the outline and just spin it around. So it's a really simple modeling technique to model things that are radially symmetric. So at first I had a bunch printed, but then I went to a machine shop and I had them turned on a lathe. And even Stephen Colbert bought one, and he used it for his show. So that was it was pretty neat. So this one is kind of just a soap dish like Fight Club. So not an actual replica, so I guess it doesn't count as one of the 30. But these are cool. It was a fun project learning about different advanced math shapes, because I learned about spheres and cones and dodecahedrons and stuff in school. But there's a whole other series of 3D geometry. So there's the seventh stellation of an icosahedron, which is the bottom center. And these are all the different shapes that Bit from Tron jumped into for yes and no and different things in the movie. So I was able to print those, and then I spray painted them. So people think, oh, how do you get a different color? Well, you can just paint it. So it's another thing that you can do to get different colors. So the ones at the bottom I painted red, and the ones on the right was the yellow, and the left ones were blue. So this one's a little bit longer. We're going to talk about Han Solo and carbonate. I also made the Tickle Me Elmo and carbonate just for fun. But so if you check out Han Solo, there's a whole subculture of people, a whole subgroup of people making replica Han Solo and carbonate props. So some people are only RPF, but there's a separate forum for people just making that replica. And to do that, you need the box, the wooden box, the rubber Han Solo parts or fiberglass or resin parts, the carbonate texture, the side panels, the electronics, and the details for the side panels. So the one on the right is one that's on the Magic of the Myth tour that goes around the country. And the two on the left are ones I made. So there's the box, and then a rubber casting that I bought from a guy who made a mold from the one that came out in '96, Elusive Concepts. They produced, a fiberglass copy. So I got a resin one, rubber one. But on the side there, you can see on the right side there are these panels. And nobody knew for the longest time, up until I think November of 2012 or something like that, they didn't know what these panels were. And that's half the fun in making replica movie props, is you got to figure out what the prop masters used 30 years ago when they made the movie, because they just grabbed stuff and put it together, and that's how they built their prop. So somebody figured out, well, these detail panels are the Volvo dashboard instrumentation panels from a certain Volvo car mounted face down and upside down. So they were able to figure that out. Somebody dug through a junkyard, only because the car was only sold in the UK, so in Europe. So they went through junkyards and pulled out as many of these panels they could, and then announced, hey, we found the panel. You guys can buy it now. So I was able to buy one of these old panels and make a silicone mold. So me and my friend Charlie made these molds and started casting resin copies. So these are the resin copies. We made a whole bunch of them. We're selling them online. But if you look at the panel, it's not just that panel. There's all these little detail pieces. And there was a guy making these detail pieces. These little rings and metal clips and little nipple parts and just there's 115 little pieces you need. But, there's, again, a deficit in the market for people who make the detail pieces for the panels for the Han Solo and carbonate props. So I modeled all 115 parts and put them in shapeways and uploaded them to the website so people could then, order them. And that way they would get them all shipped to their house. You get all these parts, and there's like knobs. I mean, they found out that the knob on the right is from a record player. It was one of the weights on a old school record player. They used that to attach to the knob. And on the left there are these metal clips that nobody's sure what they're from. So somebody machined them in metal, but it's really expensive, so I was able to print them back in this nylon material. And if you look real close, all the screws are turned at different degrees, because regular screws are turned at these angles. And that's a detail that we go to get. You want to get it as perfect as you can. So there's 3 different screw heads, and each one's rotated at a different angle that I matched to the movie prop. So when all the people are going to assemble their Han Solo and carbonates, they'll be able to put the right one in the right spot. So Han Solo and carbonate is very large. It's 7 feet tall. Some people want smaller versions. So I started out on a task to make 1/3 and 1/6 scale shrunken down versions. So I brought the rubber cast that I got from the copy of the original to my friend's company, Direct Dimensions in Owings Mills. And they're like a high-end 3D scanning shop. So we're using a Faro arm here, which is like a $50,000 laser scanner that's, not the home, it's like industrial commercial style. So it shoots out a red laser line of points, and it picks up the scan. So this is a 3D scan that I got from this machine, and it's 7 million points on the whole thing. And then there's crazy software that's specialized just to connect the dots, because the scanner only scans points, but there's other software that connects the dots to all the points to make a surface, because you need that surface for the model. So I shrunk it down to 1/6 scale and printed out on the highest resolution 3D printer I could find. So this is in this Objet Vero Blue material, and you can see like every detail shrunk down. I laser cut the box. Like the wood parts are laser cut. This is silicone, and since we wanted a high detail casting, you use a pressure chamber to make sure all the air bubbles get crushed down in the resin. So if you do that, regular silicone has air bubbles in it, so you have to remove all of the air. So you mix your silicone and you put it in a vacuum chamber, and you suck all the air out. So the silicone kind of bubbles up because all the air in there, the pressure's lower, so the air on the inside comes up. and then it eventually collapses on its own weight, and you're able to use that. So when you cast parts in it later, it won't crush. So we poured it over the Han Solo parts, and then we made this really high quality mold. We're able to pressure cast the parts. So here's the pressure cast resin parts, all the side panels, which I did this project before the Han Solo side panels were found. So they're all modeled. So I had to 3D model the parts with the details on them. Shrunk them down, printed them out too. So there you see them installed, painted on a box. I installed electronics with an AT1085 so all the lights could blink. So it was a similar pattern. Because on the full-size one, there's a guy who made all the 7-segment display panels, and they found the right ones with the plus sign and the minus sign and all the 8 and the numbers and have them all blinking at the right time. So I shrunk it down. You can't fit those displays. You had to put LEDs, so I had those blinking at the same kind of pattern. So that was a cool project. Here I'm sculpting the carbonite texture because the rubber casting I got I didn't have the carbonite around it. I just had that part, so I had to sculpt this back. And there you can see my finished miniature one with the full-size one. Good project. Who knows this movie? Super 8. Yeah, I got in trouble for making this one. Here's the render. I modeled it. I had an angled shot, and Paramount ended up sending me a cease and desist letter for modeling this and offering that online. Marvel did the same thing with this little keychain that I made from Captain America. So it's just a render. I didn't really get too far on that project. And then this one's from a really good show which didn't get picked up. It's the prequel to the new Battlestar Galactica series called Battlestar Galactica Blood and Chrome. Go and watch it. Spoiler alert, that thing's not really what they said. But it's a necklace pendant, and it's got a microchip in it. And the lady's bringing it along through the show. So I really wanted one. I just really liked the show. So I had that straight-on shot, which we love. I was able to trace that outline pattern. So you can see the white outlines. That's me tracing the details. And on the right, I made the 3D model of the back part. And the plan was make this in 2 parts and then put an RFID sticker in there. I bought an Arduino shield for an Arduino. Yeah, an NFC writer for RFID tags for my Arduino from Adafruit. And so I'm writing a URL to the NFC tags. So there's the printed part, and there's the render of the thing I was going to mill out of a circuit board. So I put these slides out of order. Sorry. First I tried the other way. This is the second try. I spray painted copper clad board that I got at Radio Shack, and then I used a laser cutter to engrave to blast away the paint. And then I mixed hydrochloric acid and something else, hydrogen peroxide, and that makes cupric chloride, which will eat away copper, but not eat through the spray paint. So it's etching away the copper, exposing the fiberglass underneath. So I went through a couple trials. I wasn't able to get the highest detail I wanted, so I ended up using a mill to carve away, and you can see the pattern where it's carving it away. Here's the G code. It's like the toolpath that the machine's using to carve away all the copper, and then it cut out that pattern. And there on the left, you can see the screen used one when she put it on the thing, and it went and loaded the website. And then on the right is a photo I took here last year where somebody was cosplaying as Starbuck from Battlestar Galactica, and I had her wear the pendant there. So it's a pretty cool project. How about this one? Who knows this one? It's from Looper, which is also a really cool movie. It's the silver bars that they were using to pay their assassins. So I went and made the 3D model and printed out a small one. This is from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. There's an episode where the gang gets together and they all have these rings, and it gets together, and somebody wanted that ring. So now every once in a while, people will contact me and say, "Hey, Todd, we need 4 of these rings in this size and that size." And I'm able to print out these parts where I don't have an inventory. I don't keep an inventory of them, but people are, it's kind of like a communal thing where 4 guys get together and they have the gang ring like that. This is from Torchwood. It's Jack Harkness's vortex manipulator. So here, it's a bunch of different parts. You've got the leather strap and the printed and the metal part in there, and lights and a screen and things like that. So I made the 3D model and printed the parts. They're all printed in resin, and we didn't know what size to make it because it's hard to gauge how big this thing is. But the button that's here on the left, that's got 4 little clover loops on it. somebody figured out what it was.
Sometimes they want to poke.
It's a button from the Samsung A85 cell phone. Somebody was able to see, oh, I know that. So on the Replica Prop community, on the Replica Prop forum, everybody's like, hey, does anybody know what this is? And people will look and, you know, they just, oh, I recognize this from that. So it's not that hard for recent things, but for things from, you know, 30 years ago, it's hard to figure out what that is.
Hey guys.
So once we figured out what the button was, somebody ordered the replacement button from eBay and was able to measure it, and they, oh, it's 16 millimeter diameter. So I was able to scale the whole part the right size, and you know, I'm printing those parts, but other people are going on eBay and buying this part so they can have more accurate versions. They buy the phone and then tear out the button, or some people just find the button.
Right now.
Whose watch is that?
Oh, right here.
It's Dick Tracy's watch from the '93 movie. So on the left. On the right is the only replica that was made. Disney commissioned a company called GTI to make that. I'm just going to flip through. I'm short on time here. So I modeled it, printed them out, and that's mine. It's a lot better, the angles and everything. Green Lantern ring. So this is from the movie. I made some models, printed some parts.
Yep.
And we've got a printed band and a resin printed part that I dyed green. You can take like the clear
Don't
printed.
touch it.
You take the clear printed resin and dye it green, and I boiled a marble, and then threw it in ice water to get that crackling effect.
Plus
Glued them all
grabbing
together.
it's probably not a great idea.
Made a whole lot of them. The Sinestro ring, Duke Leto's ring from Dune.
Yes.
This is the sit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Yes. And Neil deGrasse Tyson's from Spaceship from Cosmos. Made a big one and a small one. And Shredder. This is a cool project I'll tell you about. It's really depth in detail. And I have it up here. It's the Sand Trooper backpack radio kit. So anybody building Star Wars Stormtrooper, Sand Trooper backpacks has to get this radio. So it's a crazy talk. I gave the whole talk about this one specifically at Maker Faire in New York. So it's pretty cool. And that's the finished one on the right. And remember, it's Han Solo, not Hans Solo. Yeah. Cool. I have like 30 seconds left. If you have a question, or just my booth is over there by the American Grill, so you can talk to me after the fact. But yeah, thanks so much.